More than 4,000 people are stuck on a cruise ship that is dead in the water.
Passengers and crew spent last night stranded aboard a cruise ship in the Gulf of Mexico.
The toilets weren't working. Well, we can do a number one in the shower, and then...
I'm telling you, it got bad fast.
People were covering the poop with the toilet paper and then again pooping on top of it. So it was a layer after layer after layer. It was like a lasagna.
My God, it's chaos.
Welcome back to our channel, guys. It's your host with the most, Vince.
And it's your girl, Arlene.
And with a royalty adventure. Man, oh man. Did you see the trailer?
I saw it.
And I'm telling you right now, if you haven't done so, you need to tune in and tap in and watch the documentary on the Carnival Triumph called The Poop Cruise.
The Poop Cruise. And let me say, it definitely has the blogs buzzing, social media buzzing.
Yes.
Everyone in the group cruises are going crazy. The avid cruisers. And may I add, like, I've seen people who actually canceled their trip after watching this documentary with Carnival.
And let me tell you this. If you're first-time cruisers, I do not recommend this because this is probably going to be a bad experience you're probably going to think of, right? But this happened many years ago.
Right.
It just happened to resurface because people have actual footages. All right. And this documentary highlights the unsanitary conditions and the challenges that the passengers and crew members dealt with on a cruise ship.
Right. And mind you, this happened back in 2013. So
Yes.
this was like years ago. But what actually happened were passengers who were on the cruise ship at the time recalled the chaos they experienced during the sailing. The original itinerary was a 4-day sailing, and it had over 4,000 passengers, and they were stranded in the Gulf of Mexico for an additional 4 days.
But, you know, they was having a time of their life because based on from what I watched, these were first-time cruisers on the cruise ship.
A lot of them were first-time cruisers.
Right.
And can you imagine you on the cruise for the first time, you having the time of your life? I think even one lady, she was having her bachelorette party on there. So, you know, you're partying, you're enjoying your time. I remember one guy explaining how he loved the aesthetics of the cruise and all that other stuff. But things took a turn on the 4th day.
Man, oh man. This is when things turn hectic. In the middle of the morning on the 4th day. Early in the morning, a fire broke out in the engine room that caused the ship to lose power in the middle of the ocean. Now, can you imagine, right? The fire broke out. You can't call any fire rescue like you would do online. Now, people are worried, like they don't know what to expect. And then this happens.
Right. And then no AC.
No AC.
Power went out.
Yeah.
And then the lights go out.
No AC.
Audibly heard the AC cut out.
And I'm pretty sure people were hot, agitated, and it's just insane. And I would panic because you're in the middle of the ocean. You're literally in the middle of nowhere. And then also in the documentary, I know like they have generators for the cruise. But in the documentary, the lady said that 5 out of 6 weren't working. But in video, you can see that it was 2 out of 6 generators that were out of service.
Well, I had to do some research to make sure. Like, I like to do facts and like what the documentary is trying to portray. So it was actually 2 out of 6 of the generators that were out of service. And then another point was they had issues in the past before with the cruise ship, but I feel like Carnival was just trying to hide it though. Based on the research that I did, this cruise ship should not have been sailing at all.
At all.
There were so many technical issues in the past, and a lot of mechanical issues in the past too. And a lawyer actually in the documentary even spoke about it too, and had proof that it should not have been sailing at all.
Right.
The cruise line's own reports, inspections, and maintenance records detail the problem that had been developing on board the Carnival Triumph more than a year before Rodriguez and her daughter were on board. Houston attorney Frank Spagnoletti obtained the documents in his lawsuit against Carnival.
That ship never should have set sail in February.
And because of that, these people experience the worst of the worst.
Right. And then also because of lack of power, because even watching this documentary, we learned a lot.
Yeah.
The lack of power, we didn't realize that even with the toilet, you need power for the toilets to work on the ship, even to flush it.
Somebody realized that the toilets weren't working. They needed electricity, so they weren't going to flush.
Yeah.
So that was something that was new for us. Mm-hmm. And then later on, as the evening went on by, you know, it got hot. People were like in a frantic. They didn't know how long they were going to be stranded for. People started bringing out their mattresses out of their cabin.
Yes.
We completely left our floor, brought our mattresses up, and we laid in the hallway.
They were around the decks, around the hallways, the balcony, and the Lido deck became tent city. Because can you imagine for the people who had like indoors?
Yeah.
There's no window. So there's no air coming in. Mm-hmm. There's no ventilation. People were sleeping on only the people who had their balconies.
Yeah.
But I would have brought my mattress out there too.
So we gotta back up, because what was happening during this time, a situation like this happened, mm-hmm. and Carnival was problem solving at the same time.
Right.
And I felt like they should have like things in place already in case
they ever had this situation.
But now it's like they were planning along. And let me tell you, there's a part in the documentary where they're like, okay, so if the toilets don't work, how are people supposed to use the restroom?
The bathroom, right? And I mean, like they, like my husband was saying, it just seems like as they were going, they were trying to figure out the issues. Mm-hmm. So they should have had a plan in place.
Yeah.
In case if we have toilet issues, where the people are going to use the bathroom, right? So the solution they came up with was that the men can pee overboard.
Yeah.
But the women couldn't because they can fall overboard.
Yeah.
So they said the women could go and use the showers to urinate. That's, I mean, at that time, like there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do. So that was a solution that they came up with at the moment. Sounded great, but hey.
And mind you, people don't know, later on in this documentary, while they're telling you that you can use the restroom in the showers, mm-hmm. nothing could drain.
At all. So it was just sitting there.
Sitting there.
Can you imagine for 4 days, all these people needing to use the restroom and they're just going and peeing in the shower and urine is just sitting in the shower?
Yep.
It's insane.
So because of the conditions of the cruise ship, thing took a turn. Now, I would say the Lido deck ended up becoming tent city because it was hot and humid around the cruise ship.
Right.
Everyone is for themselves at this point.
At this point, yes.
Because nobody knew like if they were ever going to go back ashore, if everything was ever going to be solved. But I got to highlight the main point of this documentary was about the unsanitary conditions.
Right.
Can you imagine like being stranded in the middle of the ocean? You're using the same shower to take a shower. Nobody's taking a shower.
No one used a shower, right?
Right. The urines were filled up with, I'm pretty sure 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Number 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to imagine too, the ship, because the ship lost power, it drifted 100 miles where it was originally supposed to go.
Right.
Which was Progreso, Mexico. Mm-hmm. But that pushed back the cruise ship 100 miles further.
Right. And then they end up having to take several days to get to Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
And now can you imagine, let's take it back some more. They figured out the situation if people need to do number 1. But now people are on a cruise and they have to use the bathroom. So where are they going to do number 2? So this other solution that they came up with was that they gave them red bags. So people had to use bags to poop.
Do it in a plastic bag. tie the bag, put it in a bin, and then dispose of them down below. It really was a genius plan.
And a lot of people were against it.
Updated info.
What the fuck?
You want me to what?
Excuse me?
No.
I'm not doing that.
Yes, they had to use red bags to poop, and they had to leave them like in the hallways.
Yeah.
So can you imagine you walk in the hallways and there's nothing but bags of poop in the hallways? And can you imagine like how that smelled?
Yeah. One of the guys mentioned that the decks were smelling like sickness, quote unquote sickness. Because now it's a mixture of the urine smell and then the feces smell in the middle of the ocean. And then you got the crew members too. They're collecting all of these feces, putting them in a large bag.
Yeah, it was a lot. Then you had guests waiting in a long line for hours for food. Everybody was literally in survival mode. And at this point, it was like every man for themselves and their family. And then because of this, and I could only imagine people are irritated. They're scared. They don't know what's going on. And as a result of this, a lot of fights broke out.
Yes.
A lot of fights broke out during this situation. And I could imagine how that would happen, being that you're in survival mode at this point.
And you got to understand too, I made sure I don't want to skip this part. There was no cell towers around the cruise ship.
Right.
So there was a loss of communication. You couldn't get in touch with a loved one or someone back home, right? It wasn't until later on, because of the situation, Carnival headquarters in Miami sent a snippet, like a press release.
Right.
They didn't want to go too much in details about what happened. They were just saying, hey, something happened on Carnival Triumph, and we're working on it right now.
Right.
But there was another cruise ship, Carnival Legend, that came to, drop off supply food for their passengers. And then people were outside using their devices to try to get signal
on the other ship.
And then that's how the press ended up hearing about it, because people were getting in touch with their loved ones, and I'm pretty sure they were contacting the local news.
Family members start actually reaching out to us at CNN. They start contacting newsrooms and start telling us details that go quite a bit farther beyond the press release.
Or media outlets, and then that's how this whole thing blew up.
Yes, very much so. And I even remember a point in the documentary where the crew members were saying that it was like layers of poop.
Yeah.
He described it, verbatimly, word for word, it was like lasagna.
Easiest thing I have ever seen in my life. People were covering the poop with the toilet paper and then again pooping on top of it. So it was a layer after layer after layer. It was like a lasagna.
And the reason why, because not all, around the cruise ship, mostly all of the restrooms, they were filled with poop.
Yeah.
You couldn't go anywhere and get like a regular restroom to use. And then because of that, what people were doing was, hey, I will poop and then I'll put tissue over it.
They put a napkin and then go again and put a napkin. So that's why they described it as lasagna.
Like the meat,
layers.
the pasta, the meat, the pasta, the meat.
I know
pasta.
it sounds crazy, but this can you just imagine? I was sat there and I was just like, wow.
I was disgusted. Like you heard me screaming, like the whole apartment.
She was literally screaming at that part.
I was like, no, I couldn't believe it.
It was insane. I couldn't even imagine myself being in that situation.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
It ended up turning out that there were 3 decks where
the restrooms were actually working, right?
Yeah. So people were able to use the restrooms on board.
Yeah, but that's for the people who actually knew that the restrooms were, because now some people knew and some people didn't know.
Yeah.
As the man mentioned in the video. It was just insane. But that wasn't only it. Things took a turn for worse on top of that.
Yeah. So what ended up happening, they try to use tugboats to like position the ship, so that way it can assure to Mobile, Alabama.
Right.
Because remember, it was 100 miles away from Progresso, and then now they had to like pull it back to Mobile, Alabama. But because of that, the weather condition.
It made it worse.
Yeah, it made it worse. And that caused the ship to tilt a little bit. Once I found out about that, I was like, I know where this is going.
Guys.
Remember, let's go back. Urine in the shower,
filled
sitting
up.
there.
Nothing is draining.
Nothing is draining. Where else is it going?
Once it tilted over, guys. When I say these people were saying that it was an overflow of urine coming down the hallways, on the wall.
Oh my God.
The whole thing's flooding.
It's flushing out here too.
What? Imagine everything that goes in a toilet, right? Piss, shit, all of it. It's just, it's everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Watch out. Watch out.
All over the floor. I was just like, I don't think this could have got any worse.
Yeah, it got worse. Like, it was sewage everywhere from the hallways, the stairs, people's rooms. And there's a guy that's actually the cafeteria,
yes,
the
buffet. It was everywhere, guys, everywhere. And I remember in the video, the guy stepping, showing that people who walking in the hallway were stepping on urine and poop.
Yes. So here's what I'm gonna say. It just came to my mind right now. While you're watching this documentary, try to Google, or not even Google, YouTube Carnival Triumph poop cruise to see actual photos and videos. Like, there were buckets around the cruise ships of the buckets filled with urine.
Urine, right.
Feces, the trash around the cruise ship. I'm like, yeah, the way that it was portrayed, it was way worse in person.
Right.
Way, way worse in person. So, of course, around the cruise ship, there was overflowed with urine around. It got worse. And that cruise story ended up becoming a nightmare for a lot of people.
And I'm pretty sure like a lot of people was like, they would never cruise again.
Yeah.
Of course, that was a traumatic experience.
Yes, of course.
That was like a vacation from hell. Like, everything was going fine. And then this is the conditions that you have to be in. No power. It's hot. This is how you have to use the restroom. Like, all of that was so unsanitary.
Yes. So what ended up happening, things did end up working out. The tugboat was able to bring the ship back to Mobile, Alabama. As soon as they touched land, the amount of media coverage that were there.
Angry and upset at this entire process and say that this is not something that they ever thought they would have to go to when they decided to take a cruise to the Caribbean on the Triumph. Now, as you guys mentioned, it took about 3 hours for all of the passengers and crew members, more than 4,000 people, to exit this ship and head to New Orleans.
This is taking the people got off the ship, of course, but the buses loading the passengers to, I guess, bring them to hotels, because Carnival took care of them at the end of the day.
Right, because at the end of the day, Carnival ended up giving them a full refund.
Yeah.
Transportation expenses, a $500 payment, and offered a free cruise.
Yes. Now, the aftermath of what happened, some people sued Carnival. Like, they sued the cruise line, claiming physical and emotional distress. I would too, if I was in that situation.
Of course.
And then they did say too that Carnival did reach a settlement, but the payout wasn't massive though. So you got to think about it. It was 4,000 guests on board. So everyone was taken care of, but I feel like it should have been enough.
Yeah.
It should have been enough. Due to like lost wages, some people missed out on work, school. So that's why they joined the lawsuit. But in 2019, Carnival Triumph underwent a $200 million refurbishment and was named as Carnival Sunrise.
Right. Carnival Sunrise. And to be honest, we went on Carnival Sunrise. I think that was actually for your birthday.
Yes. This is way before I even knew that we were actually on the cruise ship.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, our experience, because we actually did a review on Carnival Sunrise, and our experience, we gave it an 8 out of 10 because it was fun. I mean, hey, I enjoyed it. We had the time of our life. You know, we're going to make the best of whatever it is. But honestly, we sailed it and we didn't even know that it was called the poop cruise and this whole situation happened. And I've seen a lot of people, even in the Facebook groups as well, too, who said they've gone on it and they never had any issues and they enjoy sailing on Carnival Sunrise and they had a good time. I mean, yes, granted, the documentary came out and it was unfortunate that it happened to these people. But I'm pretty sure after the refurbishment. It's
a mid-sized ship. It's huge. I'm not going to lie for its kind. But we had a time of our life. It was my birthday. Of course, I'm going to live it up. But looking back on it, I was like, I can't believe, when I'm taking a shower, I can't believe my feet was touching the floor of the actual urine. We're walking around the cruise ship where it was urine all around. I'm pretty sure they changed the carpets and stuff too. But I'm like, this was the actual cruise where everything unfolded.
Where everything happened, which was called the poop cruise.
My God, my God. The tone and style of this documentary, right, as it's highlighted, I feel like the situation was way worse than what Netflix showed. Like, for me, if you go on Facebook groups or type in on Google or YouTube, like, it was bad. It was bad from everything that I've seen. And what makes it worse with the Netflix documentary, it's because they had humor involved in it. And I felt like, what I was telling my wife, only 3 people and couple crew members spoke on this documentary. Like interviews. I feel like there could have been more people to actually speak about their experiences.
So I just feel like Netflix just lightly touched the subject. Like, I feel like it was way worse, but they kind of like, gave it a little tap and that was it, honestly.
It walked in the line of exposing Carnival failures, honestly. Like, Carnival, I feel like to this day, if I was in that situation, this should have been like a lifetime cruise, like forever.
Yes, I agree.
Like, not no $500. Like, this should be a lifetime because, again, this is a traumatic experience. When people got home from Mobile, Alabama, they thought they were going to die on a cruise ship.
No, honestly, and I feel like because of all these unsanitary things, it doesn't speak about it, but I'm pretty sure some people end up getting sick. That is insane to me. Like, I mean, in those conditions to be in that, I just, like my husband said, see, I didn't even think about it. A lifetime of cruising should have been it. 1 free cruise, $500, and the full refund. It wouldn't have been enough for me.
50 minutes wasn't enough for something that lasted like 4 days. So what they did, they tried to put humor and entertainment to like lightly,
lighten up the situation of what I feel like was way worse.
So the main takeaway from this situation is, poor crisis communication from Carnival. Because Carnivals were stolen at that time too. Like the crew members on board, they were stolen. And they even made an announcement too, like, hey, grab your breakfast. We're going to make sure everything is okay. End up backfiring on them.
Everything is completely under control. So please, folks, there's no point waiting in the muster station. Go back to your cabin, go back to bed, go and have some coffee, have some breakfast. It's nothing to worry about. No need to be waiting in the muster stations.
This was a crisis on board. And they dropped the ball, I would say. They dropped
really
the ball.
Did.
The media sensation and then the passenger reality. I'm taking up the passenger reality because this is something they have to live with forever. Like, Carnival is a business at the end of the day. And of course, this happened many years later too. But the fact that, it's labeled as the poop cruise.
Poop cruise,
What the documentary ended up doing was just focusing on the overflowing of the toilets and the urine. But I'm like, this is a real life experience where people were going through it. Mm-hmm. Like, this was survival mode on a cruise ship. And this was like a make or break because people thought they were going to actually die.
Yeah.
This was the end of it. A fire caught in the middle of the ocean.
Yes.
That's something you can't really take lightly.
You cannot at all whatsoever. Whatsoever.
Yeah. The biggest highlight, I would say, the biggest takeaway is the crew members. Mm-hmm. They're like the unsung hero because they actually had to work overtime.
Yeah. And they had to deal with everything, literally everything. And they were already working hard, these long hours. Then you got all these guests that you have to like extra attention to because of the crisis that's going on board. And I'm pretty sure even for the crew members, they weren't ready for something like this.
No.
They were definitely not ready for an emergency to this extent to happen like this.
So the crew members deserve a lot of credits, even to this day. Like we always emphasize, man, take care of your crew members. They had it together. This was like a whole system that happened on board. And you had to think problem solving, like how do we take care of our customers? Right. And they went above and beyond. So we're going to end it on this note. This was our take on it. I think it was good.
I think it was good, but I just feel as though like this was an insane situation for the people that actually went on there.
Yeah.
And check it out if you haven't seen it.
So we're going to end it and ask you guys, like, what do you guys think about the Netflix documentary? Like, what was your thoughts? I think a lot of people did cancel their cruises, right?
They did. I've seen it.
So if you watched it, we want to know, like, are you still going to be cruising with Carnival? Like, did this change your mind? Or will you be cruising with them in the future?
Yep. So let us know below in the comments what you think and what would you do.
So we're going to sign out. It's your host with the most, Vince.
And it's your girl, Arlene.
And with the Road to Adventure. Don't forget to cruise.
And chill.
I gotta end it too on this. You can't look at lasagna the same anymore.
At all.
Peace.